What's going on, my dudes? It's your boy, Beardson Beardly here, and today I wanted to talk about a game that is very, very special to me, a game that holds a very significant place in my heart, and that is Death Stranding. I've had a lot of people ask me, like, why I love Death Stranding so much, why I named it my game of the year, and it's a hard thing to kind of condense down into a couple of sentences. It's Death Stranding is not really a game that you can just say, "Wow, it's really fun," or "Yeah, it's got a really great story," because it doesn't really do it justice, or is it really all that accurate? I mean, don't get me wrong, the game is fun to play. And the story is really, really, really good. But that's not even necessarily what makes Death Stranding, I think, such a great experience. And that's what it really is. It's hard to even... I'm not one of these people that likes to debate are video games art, aren't video games art, etc. But it feels wrong almost to call Death Stranding a video game. Because... to me, it is definitely more of an experience. It's something that just kind of happens to you and that you kind of struggle with and until you eventually get kind of acclimated to it. And then you finally understand it, and then you just can't stop going forward into this game. That's the way that I really feel about it. It's a very strange game that I don't really even know how to start explaining, so we're just going to get right into kind of my history with Death Stranding, because Death Stranding kind of hit me at a very weird time in my life. The night that it came out was the night that my dad went in for surgery. My dad had a series of strokes, and he was fine, but he had to have surgery, and that night... that he was going, the night before he went into surgery, I went and picked up my Death Stranding Collector's Edition from GameStop, thinking everything was going to be cool. I just talked to him, everything was fine, and the next day he didn't wake up. And not that me and my dad had a terrible relationship or anything like that beforehand, but we just didn't really ever talk that much. I mean, maybe kind of a phone call a month, maybe every other month. We were just kind of content with doing our own things. And so after his surgery, I didn't really have time to play Death Stranding, to be honest with you. I was starting a new job, and I was at the hospital waiting for my dad to wake up. And then on top of that, my mother-in-law passed away. So I was, driving between cities just in probably the worst time of my life, just trying to make it through, just trying to survive, really. It was a really hard and difficult time for me. And it was about the end of December or January where I actually really got to sit down and play the game for, what I would say was the first time. I'd squeeze in an hour or two here or there, but I just didn't really have the energy to play it. To be honest with you, because Death Stranding is not a relaxing game to play. It is not a relaxing game to play, even though on the surface you look at it and it's such a beautiful game, and the environments and everything really seem like it'd be nice and cozy. But it's work. It's work to play Death Stranding, and I think that's intended. So I didn't really get a chance to play the game until December, and, all the while my dad's still in a coma and everything like that. But after Christmas, I was like, I needed some time to myself, and so I took the time and I sat down, and really the first thing I did was, when I got some free time, I played Death Stranding. And I got, I think, about 40 hours into it, and as I'm playing it, I really felt like a lot of the themes in the game were kind of targeting me specifically. Like, I really felt the game kind of speaking to me, because this whole idea of reconnecting the world and everything like that kind of felt like it was telling me like, hey, you need to reconnect with your dad a little bit. And you know, look, I'm not a guy that really gets like too tied into games and stuff like that in terms of like, oh, this game changed my life and all that stuff. And it's not like, you know, I probably wouldn't have started talking to my dad anyways if it wasn't for Death Stranding. But I found that a very funny coincidence, I guess, that these two things were happening at the same time. The theme of Death Stranding, I think, is very powerful in today's modern age. It's a game about reconnecting one another and reconnecting the country and persevering through incredible challenges. I mean, otherworldly challenges in order to just connect people. You know, really, at the end of the day, that's the whole thing. And in today's language of social media, COVID, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, I think that's a message that's very powerful and very, very relevant, so to speak. It's not only just the messages of the game though that I really, really enjoyed. I thought the performances in the game were fantastic. I've never honestly just been a Norman Reedus fan ever, but his performance in Death Stranding's amazing. Everybody, Troy Baker, everyone, everybody does a phenomenal job of making you interested and curious about their characters, and they do a really good job of fleshing them out, giving them backstory, motivation, and everything else that you just don't see in a whole lot of games. And not only that, the gameplay, it's one of those things where the gameplay and the game mechanics are so direct and not only influencing, I guess, the story, but it just feels like the two things are intertwined. And you don't really often get that in video games where the narrative and the gameplay are hand in hand thematically like that. You know, I mean, for example, you play like a JRPG and you're doing these turn-based battles, and then you're doing, you know, then the story has absolutely nothing to do with you killing wolves or, you know, anything else. It just seems like it's totally like on the opposite end of the spectrum in terms of themes. And with Death Stranding, the entire theme of connecting one another and you walking and delivering packages and reconnecting everyone are these two themes are just so intertwined with one another, and it's really beautiful. It almost reminds me, I guess, kind of like a really great Star Trek: The Next Generation episode. With Star Trek, you always had these like two parallel storylines in a really good episode. At least you'd have these two really great parallel storylines where there's this big threat to the Enterprise or to a planet or something, and then on the inverse, there's a nice character drama or a character study, and these two things almost seem completely unconnected and just kind of happening until the very end. They just kind of coalesce together, and it makes sense. And thematically, there's this kind of nice rhyme between the two storylines, and it just fits so well. And I feel like Death Stranding had that with the gameplay and the narrative. And the game does get fun. It's not just a walking simulator. I mean, the combat actually feels really good. When you get vehicles to drive and things like that, there's a lot of Kojima-esque options, I would say, in the game in order to tackle any challenge. And you know, very reminiscent of, I'd say, of like a Phantom Pain, you know, Metal Gear Solid 5, which is arguably one of the greatest stealth games ever made, in my opinion. Just the amount of tools, the amount of options that you get from a gameplay perspective to tackle a challenge, and not only that, but to make new challenges for yourself. The freedom that the game gives you to accomplish your task or to come up with new tasks on your own, for that matter, is pretty astounding. And I don't think Death Stranding really gets enough credit for the openness that it has in terms of gameplay. People just want to label it as like a walking simulator and all that, but it's really much, much more than that. I mean, yeah, there is walking involved, but it's really hard to describe. There's stealth, there's shooting, there's driving, there's so many different things. I mean, and in what other video game it's like the environment itself is almost a boss fight, you know? That interaction with the environment, I think, is incredible too. The amount of customization that you have in tackling these environments is all over the place, and I love games like that. I think one of the greatest sins of modern gaming is the fact that not a lot of games really utilize and take advantage of their environments. You're just kind of put into these theme parks and kind of courted through, you know, I'll go to the next room, here's a big, you know, set piece or whatever, go to the next room. And with this, the environment is the game. You know, climbing a mountain is the game. And it's great. It's really great. It's a really fantastic game, and I would highly recommend that everybody check it out, especially if you're a fan of Kojima and you've been hesitant to check it out. The director's cut is about to come out very soon. As a matter of fact, as I write this, I think Kojima is about to drop the final trailer, which I'm very excited to see. And I can't wait for it. I can't wait to actually get a chance to play through this game again, because obviously the last time I played through Death Stranding, I was dealing with a lot, and it's going to be nice to just play this game and to be able to finally really take it all in and not have all of this in the back of my head and relax and enjoy Death Stranding, because it truly is, I think, one of the greatest games of the last console generation. It's a work of art, and the whole package deserves a lot more praise than I think it even gets now. And it gets a lot of praise, but I love it, man. I love Death Stranding so much. I love Hideo Kojima. He is an auteur, one of my favorite, if not my favorite, game director of all time. And I can't wait to see what he does after Death Stranding Director's Cut. So that's my story. That's my take. I know I haven't done any YouTube videos in a while. There just really hasn't been a whole lot going on for me to talk about. So I thought, fuck it. We're just going to talk about Death Stranding, because I love Death Stranding. A lot of people don't get why I like Death Stranding so much. But hopefully I was able to at least vocalize it and put it into words a little bit. It's a very hard game to explain. It's just one of those things that you really, truly, I think, have to experience for yourself. But hopefully maybe I've motivated a few people to check it out. I think it's on sale on Steam right now, just by the way. So check it out. Tell me what you think. Beards and Beardly signing out. We'll see you guys next time. Peace.